Hi, my name is Darla Anderson, and I'm super excited to be with you guys today. One of the main reasons I joined Netflix was to be around different kinds of voices and champion those kinds of voices that have a lot of unique stories to tell. And so today I'm going to introduce you to some directors of three really unique and really gorgeous short films. I can't wait for you to meet them. I'm thrilled to introduce you all to Will McCormack and Michael Govier of the gorgeous, beautiful, poignant film, If Anything Happens, I Love You. You guys, what a film. What a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous film. I mean, my first question is, how long have you been working on it?
Oh, forever.
Yeah, is that right?
Michael?
Yeah, I think from kind of inception of kind of like a concept and us meeting, we probably worked on it for about 3 years or so. So we worked on the script phase for about a year to develop it, because we knew we weren't going to have much time to like animate and then maybe reanimate sequences. So we needed the script to be as tight as possible, so everything we have we can actually use. And same when we went into animation, because we don't have times to go, you know what, it'd be great if we had another scene like that. It's like, no. We have made those choices long before.
Right. And so obviously you're taking on this intense subject of gun violence. What inspired you to tackle that? And was there there's so many incidences. Was there anything in particular that wanted to make you dive into that?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, so many. Michael and I are storytellers, and we meet and to talk about what we're working on. And we were both interested in tackling grief in story. And Michael had this gorgeous idea of these shadows sort of as these reservoirs of feeling that people can't reach during times of grief because they're in so much pain. And so I just really took to that, and I thought it was so gorgeous. I just thought it was a gorgeous image, and I thought it was a great engine for story. And then we kept meeting and talking, and again and again and again, you read about school shootings and shootings in malls and so much gun violence that's so pervasive in America. And we really wanted to tackle this story through the lens of grief, and really try to make a film as an elegy to people who've lost loved ones to gun violence. And Every Town for Gun Safety is a partner on the film, and we were so inspired by so many of the people we've met who've lost loved ones to gun violence, and just the way that they endure that tragedy and have the courage to wake up and try to continue and move on was really awe-inspiring to us. So we did our best to capture what that feeling is like, and it was just a remarkable filmmaking experience. It was great.
I mean, it's such a beautiful, beautiful film, and it's interesting because there's no dialogue, and I'm just wondering how you guys, manage the narrative without the dialogue.
Yeah, that was something we from the beginning we knew we wanted it to have no dialogue at all, and it was it's about 12 minutes, 12:44 or something, and it's like there's no dialogue at all, and we wanted to tell a story. And I think as storytellers, that's a wonderful challenge. Like, how can you tell a true story without any using the visual means and without any dialogue? And it's just like, so that's why we kept meeting so often to really get the story clean. And it's like, so we go, okay, here's the story, here's how it looks, here are the scenes from this beat to this. And so you can actually still follow, track the story, and also connect to the characters. And, you know, I've had people who watch the film and they say these people are so real and they feel so connected to them. And that was such an honor to hear, because it's like you want to create characters that people love and people connect to. And then when they never say a word, but you feel like you know them, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, like as storytellers, and especially in animation, we're always like show, don't tell, show, don't tell, show, don't tell. And I mean, this is pure poetry in that way. Like it just is, I couldn't, there, I have zero critique for it at all. Like it pulled me right into the storytelling. And I was completely empathetic the entire time. And so I'm just curious how the style came about, and who the team was, and how you came up with the look of it, which is incredibly compelling.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, we spent a lot of time on the look of the film, like the, you know, absence of dialogue, where we're going for total leanness and story in a completely minimalist style, for two reasons. One, we just really thought that look captured what grief can feel like, that it should feel barren and lonely. And we were really looking for that parsimony stylistically. You know, and also it's, you don't have a lot of money when you're making an independent film either. So it's really like we're really putting on screen just the bare essentials of what we need. And that was a rule that we kept going back to as filmmakers, that nothing that needed to be in frame should be there. So we kept stripping and stripping and stripping down, so you could really just get to the essence of the moment. And memory works that way too. When you're going through the waltz of the character's memory, you don't remember everything in the room, but you remember the spirit of that moment. And so it really worked out for us really well. It was just so we kept stripping and stripping and stripping. The film Father and Daughter was a huge inspiration to us, which won the Academy Award in 2001. And that was a film that Michael and I loved. And when we met our animation director, Young Ran No, this woman is an absolute genius. That happens to be her favorite short animated film ever. And we all wept and hugged each other. We're like, oh my God, because we were so on the same page of what we were trying to do. So, right. You know, you get a little luck sometimes making films. And we had a huge stroke of luck meeting Marianne Garger, our producer, and our animation director, Young Ran No. It just was one of those sort of moments where you felt like there was a sense of destiny, where we were supposed to make this movie together. And that doesn't always happen. So we got really lucky.
Yeah. And what about the color, you know, the use of blue, and so on? That
was highly intentional. Like we really talked a lot about color, the use of color, how much color do we really want in the film. And then as it goes through kind of the dreamscape or the memory going back, you see more color drop into the frame, but the color is always viewed through a lens of grief. So the color's a little distorted because they're still in that present day, remembering what they saw and what they felt. So the edge of frame still drops off to those grays and whites, and it's not this clear Technicolor field when they go back into memory. And then when you jump through memory, like memory just ping pongs in so many strange ways, where you go, oh, that song triggered this memory, this feeling, I saw that shirt, oh my gosh, that dinner. And it's that random, but in your brain and your experience, that's kind of how it flows. And we wanted to kind of honor kind of like, you know, memory and dream and remembrance, but it's still filtered through a color palette of kind of grief in that moment. Because the movie is really taking place. It's like the couple is having a conversation on the bed, and they're saying, okay, we're going to do it. Let's just really talk about this. Let's really, and we're seeing kind of the conversation that is coming out of that. And it's kind of that moment that we're seeing, but it's still filtered in that present day moment of sitting on the bed together.
The use of the American flag is like, yeah, that was just so powerful, so intense. Who would think it would take a pandemic to stop school shootings, right?
I know.
Right? What a year.
What was it like working, I mean, assuming that you met with a lot of people in the community and through the organization, what was it like meeting with families? And I mean, how did you guys, I assume that you collaborated with some families to bounce this off of them. I'm gathering.
Yes, we reached out to every town and sent the film to them, and they sent it to some of the survivors networks. And then we had a screening here at UTA with a lot of survivors and Moms Demand Action, and we hosted a screening for them. And they just loved the film. It resonates with them. They say they feel seen in the film. They say this is our experience, and they talked about the memories. Like some of them would say, like, when this song plays, I remember the person I lost. And they talked about how memory works, like, you know, remembering their smell, remembering all of these components of them, and so it's been very compelling because now we're grieving with them, and they're sharing their stories with us, and this is a way to start conversation, and we're all now part of a greater community, and we're grieving with them.
We had this proverb up on our corkboard when we were designing the movie, which was, when your parents die, you bury them in the ground, but when your child dies, you bury them in your heart. And it was this sort of thing that we kept going back to. And having, you know, I became a father during the making of this film, and to think that, you know, you send your kids off to school to be a place that should be sacred and one of growth and one of learning, and to not have them come home is an unthinkable thing to endure. And we met these people, and they're so brave in the way that they're able to tell their stories, and the way that they're able to get up and fight for the kids that still go to school, and for the people who still die of gun violence, was really just awe-inspiring. So we were humbled to meet them and to try to honor them with this film. It was a really rewarding filmmaking experience.
This one woman, Brenda Moss, she said in her journey, there was a moment where she could just stay in bed for the rest of her life and cry, or she can choose to get up and fight. And, you know, the sun rose up and she gets up and does something, you know, and that honors her son. And it was those kind of stories where we feel like that's kind of the humanity of the film. It's like the sun does come up, the parents are still there, and they're going to keep going forward. So we're not saying it's not going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but they keep going forward. And I think that's kind of this wonderful component to it.
I think I read that a lot of women worked on this, or a lot of animators, and was there a reason for that? Was that, since I read about it, it must have been intentional.
Yes, it was. We have our female animation director, and then all the animators are women as well. And it was just, that was kind of one of our goals with the film is we want to provide opportunities for people who were just coming up. And so we wanted to create space for them. And so everyone had just graduated from Cal Arts. All the animators are from Cal Arts.
Wow.
And this was like the year after they graduated. And so they got to work on something that's, they really felt was quite meaningful and got to participate and I think that was a major goal, was to give people opportunity.
Amazing.
I also just like working with women. I do. I mean, Michael, I love you, but having sisters, and I have a producing partner who's a woman, and Marianne Garger is so brilliant as a woman. It's just, there's not enough. I mean, Darla, you're a pioneer in animation, but there's not enough women, and to work with this all-women team, it just felt right. You know, like it felt like, and now we're going to try to all make a feature together. But it just felt like
that's great.
It was sort of intentional, but it also just felt like the right thing for the film. You know, and so we can't wait to do it again.
It's amazing. I started watching the film. It's funny, like, and I've been such a pioneer, as you guys all know, and everything, and I still thought it was going to be a little boy as a protagonist. And I'm like, thank you. That was so great. And just because, and it just always makes you check your own bias, right? Like, and blue was my favorite color. So even though the blue was weaving through there, like, why wouldn't it be a little girl, you know?
Right. Right.
So, well, I think you guys, I don't know. I can't tell you how much I love this film, and it's the epitome of great art that is cathartic and universal, and so it's healing. It's why we do what we do, right? And I mean, I just can't tell you how important I think it is, and how beautiful it is, and that it's going to touch people in all walks of grief, not just from gun violence, but in particular, this is a horrible malady in our country that needs to be addressed and made personal. And your film has done that. So
I'll try not to gush, but it means so much to us that you love our film. So thank you from the bottom of our heart. And also want to say thank you to Netflix. I mean, to make a tiny movie like this and then all of a sudden to be picked up by Netflix and be shown in a billion homes or 170 million, however many people have Netflix, is truly a dream come true for such a tiny film. So we're ecstatic.
I mean, it's a tiny film, but it's not a tiny film.
Thank you.
It's really, really, really beautiful. So, I mean, it's poetry in motion. It's cathartic. It's universal. It's everything we want. It's everything we want good art to be. And I know a lot of people are going to be able to relate to it when they see it. And so everybody, you can watch it now on Netflix. And I can't, bring a Kleenex, but also, it's also cracks open your heart and makes it wide open again. And so it's absolutely, watch it. I mean, I watched it a bunch of times because I couldn't get over the beauty and the healing and the depth of it. So people, please watch this film. You won't be sorry. Everybody, this is Frank Abney, and he is just the best animator and storyteller and supporter and director. And Frank and I worked together on Coco, and he's worked on a lot of films at Pixar in a relatively short period of time. You've managed to make a big impact, considering our films take 20,000 years. So congratulations on Canvas. What a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of art. Tell me about it. So tell me, I've watched it so many times. I watched you, followed you in the crowdfunding and was so excited about it the whole time. First of all, I want to say before you even answer a question, like you make me so proud because you made this film with like not a small full-time job, but a big full-time job. So that is not trivial. Tell me when you started it and how many years it's been that you've been working on it or that you worked on it.
It's actually about say 6 years ago is when it really kind of the spark happened. And 6 years ago I was kind of in a creative funk. I was just kind of finding my place in the industry. I'd been at it for a while, but sometimes those things hit and you get into those creative ruts, and I was heavily in that place. And I'd spend time with my niece a lot around that time, and she, one of the times we were hanging out, just seeing her navigate and how she kind of just bounced around carefree and just brought joy to everyone without really trying at all. It was kind of it was nice seeing how she interpreted the world around her, and not being burdened by the things that we as adults have to, and it was really inspiring and kind of took me out of that funk and kind of lifted my spirits to light that fire to want to create something. And with that want, it had to be something personal, because I knew it was going to be something that I was going to be investing myself into for a while. So making it personal, I know I could be with it for a long time. So one of the things that hit my family hard was losing my dad when I was 5. And so just watching how my mom kind of navigated that and growing up, there's times where I'd see her on the telephone talking, but she'd be doodling on whatever kind of paper is near her or something, and I would check it out, and it was I was like, oh, that's actually really good. And so I kind of wondered, like, was she, was there an artist past there, or was there, just wondering like what may have been left behind, or what did she maybe lose inspiration of, after my dad passed. And with that, there's also her father, my grandpa, who I was around him when I was little and stuff, and just seeing, he was very stoic and a little quiet overall, and again, wondering like what was, what led to that, what was the past there, and so that kind of that was the start of Canvas, and crafting that story. It was what this grandfather went through with the loss and losing his inspiration, but his granddaughter, the little girl, being the catalyst for this change, and him seeing, she really forced him to face this loss and come out of it on in a brighter way with their help, with the help of his family.
Well, yeah, just with her pureness and her naivete and innocence, and like kids,
Yeah.
they're not shy about it. And I love the way the art through line, the generational art through line came through the film that also married the heart of the film. Was your dad an artist too, or?
No, he was an engineer.
That's
yeah, it seems, from the notebooks that I've looked at, looking at his handwriting and these equations and stuff like that, it seems he was very analytical, but through talking with cousins, I heard that he's although he's very, very smart, he's funny, and I heard that he can sing also, and like, so it seemed like there was a blend of the art side and the analytical side, and yeah.
That's so cool. It is so cool because art is so spiritual, right? And so it's so interesting to me to think this is an homage to your family, and how that shows up in your beautiful film. So you started 6 years ago, and then what happened? Like, how did you say, okay, that's it, I'm going to make this short film, I have this vision. Then what happened? Like, how did you bring it to fruition in such a gorgeous way?
Thanks. Yeah, well, I mean, I could have gone the studio route with it, but with it being a personal film, and spending so much time on these different projects that I worked on, I wanted to kind of take what I learned and telling stories and being a director, filmmaker. That was the ultimate goal. So this was, I was like, okay, well, I think I want to try to do this, but do it on my terms. And so that meant, I knew it was going to be a bit of a tough road with working full time, and also everyone else on the film was working as well. So, but it was important to just see the process through. So, we gathered a small team at first, just people that I knew first, and then started reaching out to people online, and but before reaching out to people I didn't know, I quickly found that it was a lot more helpful to have artwork and things that I could actually show them to get them excited about it, and just kind of tell them that this is really happening, to take me seriously, that I mean to make this and actually finish it.
Yeah. So the visual approach to it, like, so you said you didn't want to be like a studio look or studio feel, but it still is got high quality and a gorgeous feel to it. Like, how were you thinking? How did you approach that? And did you do all the art yourself, or did you get production designer help, or how did the look work together?
I mean, the bulk of my side, just on the production end of things, I was mainly on the animation end with Canvas. There are some things that I modeled some things, and I did some early sketches of the grandfather in the beginning. But I knew this was going to be to get the quality I wanted. It was going to take a lot longer for me to try to do some of the things that I was hitting on early on, but I ended up it's like, okay, let me grab people that know what they're doing and are doing it well, and just in terms of the look and I guess a goal that I wanted to hit visually, I was really inspired by live action, and just these films that were very poetic in the visual storytelling aspect, thinking of like Moonlight and Bills Can Talk, or
I was going to ask you about that. I totally got Moonlight in there in my head too.
Oh, good. So I mean, it was really really important for me to, pull from those things, and also, grabbing photographs that I felt really illustrated something emotional about these what they were capturing. And so I would give those to my lighter, and see what we could come up with in terms of how he wanted it to look, because my lighter, he was also really good at digital painting and stuff, so he was able to kind of take those and maybe show me some paintings and stuff early on, with like with the teaser. That was one thing that we did. He did some of the color script along with another guy.
The teaser's so good.
Thanks. Yeah, so we pushed on that, and then I ended up getting Morgan Cooper. He live action director. I grabbed him. He's a cinematographer also, so it was important to get someone in to help, just with feedback and any kind of tips to really bring out the visual quality I was after.
Well, one of the things I love about your film, one of the many things I love about your film, is that it's incredibly poignant, but then it deals with grief, but then it gives you so much hope at the end, right? It gives you, like, because of our girl.
Mm.
So I just love that. And did the narrative change as you were going along? Did you change the storyline, or did it always have that ending? Did you always have that ending?
Yeah, I mean, it took a little. It took a few iterations on the ending, but it always had that same kind of message in terms of wanting everyone to come together in this moment. That the grandfather didn't have to go through this loss alone, and then when he comes back to to finally bring that brush to the canvas again, like, he didn't have to do that alone either. It was all part of the same process. And with this one, there was a previous ending of him being able to do it, by himself after coming through the loss with his family. But I felt like they should be there for that as well. And but yeah, overall, the story always kind of had this idea that the little girl, Aura is her name, she would bring the light to his life in some way.
Yeah.
I didn't know which medium he was going to be doing. At first, there's one point he was a sculptor, one point he was a painter, but so it was all art driven. But that part kind of shifted a little bit.
Quickly going back to your mom, did it turn out she did have an art background, or she did do art, or?
No, she doesn't. It's kind of just so I guess something she just enjoyed to do. And there's other moments too. I remember her participating in a play and stuff. So I feel like there's that artistic something there. It just it's just maybe wasn't nurtured, or just never, she never pursued it maybe.
Yeah. Did she?
I have to ask her about that again.
I'm sure she is so proud of you on this film. I'm like everything you've done, but this film especially.
Oh.
I mean, it's so gorgeous. So yeah, you mentioned earlier about the makeup of your team, and how much representation matters, and to aggregate around this kind of story. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, like who you brought in, and now you guys are exploding in your careers in the best way?
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So, I mean, it was important to tell a story that highlighted characters that looked like me. I mean, for one, because I mean, growing up, I didn't see too many cartoons that depicted a black family or main characters. I mean, there were some out there, but not as much. And so with this, having that, but also wanting to bring more artists in, because as an animator, being in this industry, there hasn't been too many black animators that I've worked with also. So
No.
Close to half, around half of our animators were black, and also just with the goal of the film, I wanted it to help inspire other artists of color in general, just to bring your stories out there. Because I think of how Lion King affected me when I was a kid. That was the first film where I really saw myself in it, and saw that I was Simba. That was he lost his father, and had those fears of being the next one in line, and having those adult responsibilities coming. And that was exactly me after my dad passed. And so seeing that, it was like that. I didn't know I wanted to be an animator or make these films. I wanted to be a part of it in some way. And so if that film could affect me in such a way that I can be able to provide for my family doing this, and inspire my kids and my wife, and create something that they can enjoy and be fulfilled by. And I'd want that to, I want to pay that forward, so other artists can really see a story and see that there is a voice for them in this medium. And
was that hard? I mean, is it hard to be that kind of pioneer? Was it a struggle?
I guess I didn't really look at it in that way, because I mean there were some that I was inspired by in school, growing up, seeing that these people that came before me, with Floyd Norman, Dan Haskett, Ron Husband, Bruce Smith, like these people that were already out there and showing me that it was possible. And so so I knew it was possible. And so I don't know how many of these people the next generation of animators and storytellers coming up, so just trying to be as visible as possible, with the art, and just just in general. I think it'll I hope we can keep this going and continue to expand.
Yeah, so far so good. And I mean, again and again, like, first of all, it's a beautiful film with a story that touches your heart and gives you hope. And and secondly, it's just so hard to make a movie, and you not only made it, but you directed it, and you came up with the story, and it's reflective of who you are. And then you brought up this whole team around you. So I don't know, you checked every box as far as I can tell. Like, I mean, amazing. Like, and I, people are like, I want to direct, and I would say direct, and you did that in spades while working. I mean, I know how hard you work, because I know how much time you put in, and so I don't even know how you squeeze that in, and a family, and everything else you're doing this pioneering way for this gorgeous film.
They definitely have been a huge support, and seeing the look on their faces when playing it. I mean, I one of the last times I played it, my family had seen it already, but and it was nice seeing like that it caused this emotional response. But then, like, when I played it again for my kids, especially, like, my daughter, she's 2 now, and the moment the birds started chirping and the paintbrush came in, she like turned and looked at me with this brightest, and it got me so emotional, just seeing that she was excited about something that I made, with these great artists around me. And it was a beautiful feeling that I'll never forget.
I mean, congratulations. And so we all benefit from your incredible vision and hard work and dedication to getting it done. And so thank you for all of that. It's amazing. I mean, honestly, like, it has touched me beyond belief, and these films are just so difficult to make on a good day, let alone when you're making other feature-length films and working full-time and starting a family and raising your kids and all the things that you're doing. So I just cannot wait for everybody to see this film, and you can see it on Netflix on December 11th.
Thank you, and I want to thank all the artists involved, and Netflix for taking this film and pushing it out there the way they are. And also my right hand, my producer Paige Johnstone, who's with me along the ride and really helping to rally everybody and help get this thing out there. And you know, hopefully everyone can enjoy it through the holidays and be inspired.
You guys made an incredible team, so congratulations.
Thanks.
I want to go back to when we used milk crates for basketball hoops. When hands up don't shoot was for b-boys blocking jump shots. Now brown boys blocking cop shots. Instead of hoop dreams, it's now cell blocks. Instead of hoop dreams, it's now grave plots.
I'm so excited to introduce the directors of Cops and Robbers, Arnon Manor and Timothy Ware-Hill.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So how did this come about? Like, I feel like I don't understand this film because it's all incredibly relevant and current. And then it has so much production going on in it. So when did it seems very recent, but then I don't understand how you got it done.
It came together really quickly. It did. So the original video, there was the source material, I'll call it, was a poem that I had written and performed called Cops and Robbers, and I released it in response to the video release of Ahmaud Arbery's killing, a young Black guy who was hunted down while jogging. Mm-hmm. And so I took my poem and I decided to take my iPhone and jog while reciting the poem as a way to express my frustration of here we go again, another innocent Black person being killed. And that had its own little viral moment. And this Englishman named Arnon Manor saw it on Instagram, and he DM'd me and said, "Hi, I have this cool idea. I would love to take your poem and create an animated version of it." And I said, "Oh, that sounds interesting. Continue to pitch me your idea so I can see if this is something that I want to do with you." And he had this idea of reaching out to different animators and VFX artists from all over the world, divide the poem into segments and have them interpret each segment of the poem. And we stitched it back together into this beautiful and emotional quilt, I like to call it, that we still call Cops and Robbers. And that's kind of how it came to be.
Got it. And Arnon, how did you come across it, because it was viral? Is that how it happened, or did?
Yeah, I was. This was what, May 6th or 7th, I think it was, when the video of Ahmaud Arbery's killing came out. Obviously, he was killed a couple of months before, and I was, as soon as I saw the video. I don't like to actually look at these kind of videos that come out, the police videos. They just disturb me personally. I don't need to see them in kind of a voyeuristic way. And I did, and it really affected me terribly, more than anything else, what I call the audacity of that. Yeah. And then I came across randomly Timothy's video kind of popped up, and I was so affected by his words and the performance and the kind of what I call, Timothy, as in like the journey, the ride that you take us on, the nostalgia back to the good old days. I remember when, I want to go back to when days were better, but I'm going to now hit you over the head with something really harsh because the reality is a lot different. And I felt that it immediately struck me, first of all, the strength of the words in the poem and the delivery in that moment. And I think it's the perfect storm, right? We were in COVID lockdown, hypersensitive to all that. I myself, you know, I'm Jewish. I grew up in an environment that thankfully was not as racially charged as this in this country, especially, you know, not being a person of color. But I'm very sensitive to that, and so to me, it immediately struck me as I need to do something more. What can I do? What can I add to this already incredibly strong poem? And my background is animation and visual effects, and I immediately saw this idea of this quilt and getting a lot of animators and artists to interpret it with our direction. And I'm very, very glad that Timothy responded to my DM, because it literally was like, hey, I really like the video, you know, how are you? So
I mean, just even bookended, and, you know, the through line of you going through suburbia like that is, I mean, it's amazing in this time that how it shouldn't be a shocking moment, but it brings you right to that moment. It's just crazy that juxtaposition, but then adding all this gorgeous animation in, I don't, you know, you have to watch it multiple times to really absorb it all.
Well, you know, the interesting part is, you know, the assumption is that that beautiful suburbia is where a person that looks like me doesn't belong, right? So there's a conditioning that we all have, no matter what race you are. It's the American conditioning where you see a Black person moving about their business in a neighborhood that you would not assume that they belong in. Even while shooting the film, I was approached by a neighbor who didn't know, a white guy who didn't know that I lived there, and he questioned me. It was that assertiveness, him asserting his power, his position in the world by questioning, what are you doing up here? Please, I hope you're not recording my home. And now I feel unsafe. While reciting this poem, I felt that moment that we know that Ahmaud Arbery went through, where his life was in danger. And I thought, this guy could easily call the cops on me, even though I live around the corner. Mm-hmm. And I could be another hashtag just like that. Thankfully, I asked one of my neighbors, a young Black woman, lives next door to me, to follow me the last go around when I tried to, the final taping of it. I said, can you just be with me so that in case somebody questions me, I have a witness that I feel more secure and safe. So it was a little art imitating life and life becoming art all at the same time.
I mean, I decided to not know anything about it and just hit play. And then the minute you came on, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what it's about. You know, it's about Ahmed, you know, and I'm like, wow. And it's just an interesting time we live in that, like, I knew that instantly, you know. And
yeah, it was interesting because, you know, this was beginning of May, and it was 2 or 3 weeks prior to the George Floyd murder. And then obviously with everything that erupted after that. And, you know, so it was interesting because we were making this, the animation part of this film, while all of that was going on. It was just so visceral to us. We would, you know, you couldn't get away with, you know, from it. But it was really interesting how, as we got into it, just the emotional aspects grew and grew because of everything that went on over the last few months, specifically around the George Floyd and the protests and everything that erupted.
And Breonna Taylor and
yeah, exactly. So
and I'm glad
just kept coming.
And your film, did that make it so that you could, sadly, tragically, but kept adding names to your animation?
And the sad part is that those, even with, I haven't stopped to see how many names we actually have in the film. The more you watch it, the more names you'll see, and a lot of names that most people don't even know. And the sad part is that there are hundreds of other names past and current that we still don't know. And sadly, there will be more. And hopefully,
so go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just going to say, hopefully through this film, it continues to bring awareness that we still have to continue to fight and shine a light on these injustices so that there are fewer until there are none.
Yeah, absolutely. And your film is, you know, it's beautiful, jarring, as it should be, and gorgeous, and it will continue to inspire and illuminate all of this. So I think that that's what's great about art. You know, that's why we make art and why we make it difficult, but hope there's something hopeful about it. I don't know, your face, and then the art of it. And how did you guys decide? You found young people to contribute, and I assume, you know, mostly Black people are on the team to make the animation. How did you find the team, and how did you divide up the poem? And did you let people pick? This is a multifaceted question.
It was, yeah. I can start, then you can fill in, Tim.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of a multi-process. You know, when even before I reached out to Timothy, I did my own set of calls and just to reach out to people that I knew and said, hey, would you be interested? So when I got back to Timothy and said, hey, I can do this, I actually, you know, have a leg to stand on. And the response was immediate, you know, so everybody who heard the idea, and I forwarded the link to the original video of Timothy, the response was immediate. So we went out initially to animators and VFX companies, people that I had direct relationships with, but then we certainly wanted to expand the breadth of the animators to not just being companies and professionals, but actually reach out to specifically a lot more Black animators, but also people with not a lot of experience, you know, people that are students, even high school students.
Wow.
Yeah, and worldwide as much as we could. That was definitely the ambition, not to have this ultra finessed type of animation, but very raw and emotional.
Yeah, we quite a few of our artists found on Instagram as well. So their work and was inspired by them. It was very important that we had, you know, half or more of our animators and our team be Black, specifically Black American, because it is a Black American story and experience. And it was important that though we have a lot of allies who are not Black that are participating in this piece, and beautifully so, there's a difference of creating from observation versus creating from experience. And so it was very important that the artists, that we had enough artists in there that were able to create segments based on personal connection, personal experience. The beautiful thing, it is a world, it's a global thing that, you know, Arnon had the vision to make it global, which was beautiful. We have artists from Vancouver to Toronto, LA to New York, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, down in South America and Uruguay. We have Germany, France, and London. So it's pretty amazing. We have, as he said, high school students to college students. We have historically Black college and HBCU, Morgan State University. They have
Every
an
time you
animation
name
department.
something, by the way, every time you guys talk, I get chills about who brought into this and how it kind of came about, because it feels like so much bigger than you guys.
It is. It really, it's bigger than both of us.
We call it, you know, our little engine that could, you know.
Yeah, we do call it the little engine that could, because our initial idea was to try to put it together, a simpler version in 2 to 3 weeks, and just re-release it out onto social media so that, you know, it got more views. We didn't expect it to grow into what it has become, and we're extremely grateful. We're grateful that our producer Lawrence Bender got a hold of it, and he started to push it out. And then we got executive producer Jada Pinkett Smith attached to it, and then Netflix became our distributor. And these are things we weren't setting out to do. That it was about the message. The beautiful part about this piece is that every artist, every animator, whether it was a professional Hollywood company that does all of the big blockbuster films, all the way to a person working on their iPad at home, everybody donated their time. There hasn't been a single dime exchange in the creation of this. It was about the cause and the message about getting that story out. And even the funds from Netflix that we received, we're donating 100% of those proceeds to Black charitable organizations.
That's awesome.
So it's about
not for profit, 100%, and
yep.
Messaging.
How did you guys decide who got what pieces of it, or how did you cast it?
You start. Go ahead, Arnon, because you kind of organized it at the beginning.
Yeah, no. Initially, it was when we went out. There was a lot. We kind of gave the artists a choice, especially when there was, we broke it down into sentences or subset sentences, and we had some people like, oh, I want this chunk, 5 sentences. Like, no, take one. Pick one and be very specific. And obviously, at some point, we also directed people to take specific moments that we felt would be stronger. And especially once we start seeing some of the ideas and started working with the artists on the ideas, we pinpointed them to an area. But for the most part, people chose the segment that spoke to them.
Yeah, and as we started to get closer to having all of the segments filled, where there were a handful of segments left, we started to observe what things were, what we were missing storytelling wise, what images had we not seen throughout the piece, or what images were we seeing too much of throughout the piece. And so from there, we started to pitch our ideas to the artists and say, hey, we haven't seen this. We haven't seen, for example, in the short, there's a moment where we see a character recording through her phone of a brutal beating of a policeman brutally beating a guy. And we pitched that idea to her because we said, it's a social media world, and it's because of our cell phones that all of these atrocities are brought to light. It's because of the phone that Black Lives Matter is able to have this movement, because we're able to see. It goes all the way back to the civil rights movement, where they say the revolution must be televised. It was about showing it, because it wasn't until the white community started to see the atrocities, when they saw the marchers from Selma to Montgomery cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge and be met by police officers and German shepherds and tear gas being beaten back across the bridge. It was that moment that the nation went, even the president of the United States said, we got to do something. We have to do something. So it is about it being televised, and we live in a society now where everybody has their own cameras in their back pocket. And so we went through the whole short and we realized, oh my God, we don't have a single moment where we're showing a cell phone. And so we pitched that idea to the young artists, and that's how that one came about.
Yeah, and this is actually tonight, just as another thought that reminded me as you were saying that, Tim, because I think it's important to point out that this was also an educational process for all of us. A lot of the concepts that we came up with, a lot of the conversations that we had with the artists were not about, technical aspects. They initially were sometimes very long Zoom calls about the history, historically what has happened. And again, Tim, I give kudos to you and your knowledge, but certainly that part was really important, not only to the white animators, but also I think to the Black animators as well, to discuss it and bring up the issues and why are we actually doing this. You know, what's the historical context? And there was a lot of those discussions that led up to honing in on a specific idea.
Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth. You know, we never just said, hey, here you go. Just get it back to us when you're done and we'll put it together. It was a lot of, okay, show us your work, show us your work, show us your work. A lot of animatics, a lot of whips, and constantly trying to make sure that the story was being told properly. Because Arnon and I, we saw the entire framework of it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the animators only saw their segment or certain portions of segments without understanding the full story that he and I were attempting to tell.
Yeah, what we did originally, which was interesting in that context, is we actually had all the animators, every time they would submit, because they weren't working in the same space. It's unlike a normal animation, like the ones that you've produced, where everybody's seeing the work constantly. We had different people in different parts of the world. So we'd actually compile it onto a single kind of link that everybody could watch the ongoing process.
Cool.
So they could see where their segment fitted into not just the before and after, but how it, in the context of the entire piece, even though they were different companies, different countries, different time zones, and did not know of each other even at that point. So,
I mean, you have to have been only doing this for the last several months, because I don't know, like, I don't know if you've done anything else, but like, I don't know how you've gotten all of this accomplished. And it's just like, it's that moment for me, like when I sit in a Broadway theater or something, I start to cry sometimes, because I think about all the humans that had to cooperate to make this show go on, and the audience is part of it, and that everybody's a part of it. And your film is this symphony of compassionate and passionate humanity coming together to make this gorgeous piece that's of one, and it's just stunning, and
Thank you.
And a miracle, honestly. Like,
it is a miracle.
We
We have to give some credit to Spin VFX out of Toronto for just kind of being our hub, where everything was dropped off to them, and they helped us to mold this and stitch it, and take our 101 questions and solve our 102 problems, and just a lot of credit and shout out to that company, Spin VFX. They're pretty damn amazing. I'm a fan of animation. I've always been a fan of animation, and my career has been on the stage as a Broadway actor and television work. And Arnon brought me into this world, and so it was a learning process for me as well. And I love that he gave me the space as a director, because I do have vision as well, to give my perspective, my point of view, to make sure that we're telling this specifically a Black American story. I can't say that enough. He gave the space to allow that to happen and to be told in an authentic way. And we had an amazing, like, all the animators and all the teams, and even our editor, Terry Lynn A. Shropshire, and our sound people, our Foley and sound effects guys, and our orchestrator, the guy who created the score, Jerry Compare. Everybody it was this passion. Everybody believed in the message, and they gave of themselves. And I think that's why it came together in such an organic and authentic way as well.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting just to jump on that for a second, because at the end of the process, when you're in it, as you know, Darla, when you're in it, you don't really know what you're doing. You don't understand everything that you're getting yourself involved in. You're just doing it. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
You have a moment where you kind of sit back and you look at what you created, and apart from the fact that it still gives us, and I'll speak for both of us, gives us goosebumps every time we watch it.
Yeah.
The people, both the animators and the people that came on kind of on our post-production team, both, all say this year's been tough for many reasons, but this is a light in what has been an extremely tough year in terms of putting themselves into a project that is non-paying, for donating the time, but actually speaks for the cause that we all need to, and myself as an ally to the cause. We've done something about it. Now, hopefully with Netflix, it can go out in the world and, you know, move people enough where it can be some sort of grain of change.
Well, there's so many great things, like everything that we're talking about your film, but an enormous part of it is the humanity and the empathy, and that's the point of telling these stories that are true and authentic, and so that it completely drops you into relating instantly. Like, a quick question is I assume, so like you should never assume that that's all the original video that was originally on the Instagram, or did you reshoot any of it in the live action?
No, it's all the original video. We used it as the base layer for everything else on top of it. We expanded. We added little interstitials in between we wanted to add a few more animators, and the time frame for the original piece wasn't long enough, so we found moments to add to expand a little bit time wise. So,
Okay.
but overall, yeah, it's the original.
Yeah, thankfully, Tim, you did a good job of self-recording audio as well. As we know, the audio is extremely important.
Yeah. That's what I was asking him. Like, did you have to go? This is a miracle project in everything. How did Brittany get involved? Brittany Howard's song is so beautiful. And did you pick the song, or did she pick it?
Our composer Jerry Compare, he scored the entire thing, and he created a segment using a Negro spiritual that Brittany Howard is singing. It's called "Soon I Will Be Done," and he initially had his wife record the temp vocal on it, and we said, let's see if we can find an artist that can sing this as well as help give more attention to the piece by using her platform. And I brought up Brittany Howard to Arnon and to Lawrence Bender because she was from Alabama, which is where I'm from. And I said it would be nice to have somebody else from Alabama on this project along with me. And Lawrence reached out to her manager, and she shared the video with Brittany. Brittany said yes, like within a span of a couple of hours. We found out in the same day that we sent it to her, and she said yes. And so Arnon helped arrange a
flow when you know.
Right. It's like I said. It's
shout out to Christine, her manager.
Yeah, shout out to Christine, her manager, because Brittany's voice is just there is just this rawness to her voice that you feel everything when she sings, right? And so there's the ache. To have that ache in her voice, that ache that reflects the ache of a people, of a community, of the violence that we've constantly been trying to overcome since the inception of the United States of America. So we couldn't have found a better fit vocally for this moment in the piece. So
she goes down to that heart, that grit, that broken heart, but then she also infuses pure light and hope. So I keep saying that because this film does do that. It goes all those places. It breaks, like we're just watching the film, it breaks your heart, you repair it again, it breaks your heart, and over again. And that's the power of great art. Truly, you guys, this film, it's a miracle of beauty and pure poetry, and I recommend people watch it multiple times because there's so much to take in. And the other thing I'll say too, like the genius, Arnon, of getting animation is because there's something about animation, in my opinion, that your guard goes down kind of naturally, even when it's difficult subject matter. It's hard to stay guarded, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to be open to all the beautiful art.
Yeah, and that's what
And difficult truths, you know, beautiful art and very difficult truths, but the best art is pure truth, and that's what this film embodies. So
Yeah, no, and it's true because, you know, from the original kind of concept, I had a, you know, from the idea of like, okay, let's animate this. I didn't have the specifics of what it was going to look like. I just knew, and I love this word that Tim, you know, recently, you know, you call it the quilt. I love that expression because it really is a quilt. But one other thing that's important is that we constantly directed the animators and artists to be raw with their emotions, not to go with a final, finished, you know, beautiful, let's call it Hollywood-esque, you know, animation, but go with your raw emotions. And especially, you know, some of the initial artwork that we would work with them, we'd love it. And then, as you know, because again, you've done this before, then you see the actual animation and it's a little softer, it's a little too tweaked, it's a little too, you know, I know what the word is, too soft. You know, and then sorry?
Oh, I said smooth. Yeah,
Smooth. Thank you. And
yeah.
so we kind of pushed them and directed them to be very unadulterated, you know, be emotionally open to speak in whatever context that you feel. Go raw. And as you can see, some of the animations look, quote unquote, unfinished, although they were directed to be that way. Because we felt they were so powerful.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't experience it unfinished. I experienced it exactly as you guys intended. Like, you know, this beautiful expression of these words and the zeitgeist of our times. And you've captured what a really incredible, unique experience to have made art that is experiencing the zeitgeist of the times as you're creating it, because it was unrelenting as you're creating it. And it's cathartic and healing, but still, you know, rightfully so, shocks us and opens our eyes to the truth of what we all need to see. So, wow, what an amazing experience this has been, and to share it with us. Did you ever get everybody, the entire crew, on like a Zoom call at one time, or, you know, have a virtual, like, you never met anybody, right? You didn't meet any of the crew?
I've never met Arnon. We've never met each other. We've never physically met each other. We've worked across coasts since May up until this moment. We have yet to meet. So
we had an initial Zoom call, but that was a much smaller group. And then as it grew, and also because we didn't have everybody working at the same time. We had some animators that had a specific period of time, and they would be done, and then we found other animators. So it wasn't a continuous flurry of animation with everybody. But we definitely want to do and we just talked about it today, you know, a cast and crew screening with everybody on Zoom and show them the finished piece.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that would be a feat. Like, that would be fun, and record that for all of us too. Like, you guys all made pure magic and kismet and made it all come together. And it was clearly something bigger than you. And you listened to your call, you know, you listened to the calling and it came through you, and to express what we all needed to see, and made just this gorgeous, beautiful, difficult truth. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us to meet these amazing filmmakers. I really encourage you all to watch these films on Netflix when they come out. You can see If Anything Happens, I Love You now on Netflix. It's a beautiful film. Please watch it. Canvas is getting released on December 11th. And again, another gorgeous film that is so worth your time to watch. So please, I just can't. I'm a super fan. Watch them. And lastly, Cops and Robbers. Like, what an amazing, amazing, beautiful piece of work. And that comes out on December 28th on Netflix. So enjoy, you guys, and please watch them multiple times. You'll just enjoy them so much.